For the past few years, Florida has seen a huge net in migration. As people fled New York and California, they headed for greener, or in this case, sunnier pastures in states like Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. Florida has long been a place that attracted retirees from the Northeast. There is the yearly migratory pattern from the Caribbean, most notably Cuba. Miami resembles Havana more than Orlando when it comes to the rich culture, language, and food, whereas places like Boca Raton are basically Long Island. But in the last year, Florida has lost its place on top. In fact, some people are leaving the Sunshine State. Let's be clear, they are certainly not moving back to New York or California. Things aren't that crazy, but they are moving up to the Carolinas, Texas, and even Arizona. And to be fair, in terms of sunny days, Arizona is technically the real Sunshine State. Let's look at the top 10 reasons why people are leaving Florida. Number 10 is the desire for a different lifestyle or environment. Many people move to Florida for its warm climate and scenic beaches, but over time, some may find that they crave more than just the monotony of year-round heat. The constant heat and humidity can be exhausting, and the novelty of beach life eventually wears off. Additionally, the desire for a change in scenery, such as mountains or 4 distinct seasons, can drive residents to explore other parts of the country. The search for a more temperate climate, diverse landscapes, and new experiences is a significant factor in the decision to leave Florida. While northern Florida has slightly more diversity when it comes to climate, it certainly doesn't have the same lure as other states in terms of changing leaves, hot chocolate weather, and even a bit of snow. Number 9 is the high cost of living. The cost of living in Florida has been steadily rising over the years, making it increasingly difficult for many residents to afford basic necessities. Ironically, the cost of living has increased as more and more people flooded the state, so it's a double-edged sword. People move to escape high costs and thus create high costs. The most notable rise has been the cost of housing. Housing prices have skyrocketed, particularly in popular cities like Miami, Orlando, and Tampa. Rent and property costs are significantly higher than the national average, putting a strain on household budgets. Additionally, the cost of goods and services such as groceries, healthcare, and transportation has also seen an upward trend, further exacerbating the financial burden on residents. Number 8 are the hurricane risks and severe weather. I mean, have you ever seen one of those live hurricane update news clips? Florida is notorious for its susceptibility to hurricanes and severe weather conditions. The state's geographic location makes it a prime target for tropical storms and hurricanes, which can cause extensive damage to properties and infrastructure. The constant threat of hurricanes, especially during the hurricane season from June to November, forces residents to prepare for potential evacuations, property damage, and power outages. The emotional and financial toll of these weather events is a significant factor driving people to seek safer and more stable climates. Hurricanes Michael, Harvey, Irma, and the infamous Andrew were some of the most damaging and expensive disasters in American history. The question isn't, will you encounter a hurricane, but rather, when will you encounter a hurricane? Number 7 are the high property insurance rates. This goes hand in hand with the severe weather threats. Talk about expensive. Homeowners insurance is some of the highest in the nation. In 2024, over 70% of residents saw an increase in coverage or even a drop in coverage altogether. To put things in perspective, the average homeowner's insurance rate is $2,377 per year. Vermont has the lowest annual cost with an average of only $918, whereas Florida homeowners pay the highest at nearly $11,000 annually. That is 5 times the national average. One Florida homeowner who lives in Palm Beach Gardens recently noticed that her monthly escrow wasn't covering her homeowner's costs anymore. She looked at her policy and noticed that it had recently doubled. She is now paying the same monthly cost in insurance as she is on her mortgage. And renters don't have it that easy either. Landlords will often adjust the cost of rent to cover costs. The Palm Beach Gardens homeowner renewed the lease on her 2 roommates and had no choice but to increase their rent substantially to offset her costs. Not to mention that renters should get renter's insurance because if a hurricane destroys the home you rent, your items are not covered under the homeowner's insurance. Number 6 is overcrowding and urban sprawl. Florida's population has been growing rapidly, leading to overcrowding and urban sprawl in many areas. Cities like Miami, Orlando, and Tampa have experienced significant population booms, resulting in crowded streets, schools, and public spaces. The increased population density has put a strain on infrastructure and public services, making daily life more stressful and less enjoyable for residents. The lack of adequate urban planning and the relentless expansion of suburban areas contribute to the sense of overcrowding and diminished quality of life. Many people fled New York to get away from its traffic, only to find that Florida isn't much better. A result of urban sprawl is placelessness. Placelessness is when every main street looks the same. A Walmart, a McDonald's, gas stations, car dealerships, Burger King, and other chains that completely take away from a town's local charm. Whether you're placed in Orlando or Tampa, if you drive down the wide 4-lane road, you would never know where in the country you were, as it all looks the same. Number 5 is traffic congestion. This deserves its own category because traffic is typically associated with New York, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and Boston. It's not often that Florida tops that list. Unless, of course, you live in Florida. Miami is ranked the 10th worst city when it comes to traffic, which is pretty bad considering Miami is the 44th most populous city and yet boasts the 10th worst traffic. With a population of less than 500,000, it pales in comparison to New York and LA that have 8 and 4 million residents respectively. The problem with Florida traffic is often blamed on the young and the elderly. The road is overrun with 15-year-olds and 90-year-olds. Honk honk, beep beep. Number 4 is the rising sea levels and climate change concerns. Florida is one of the states most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, particularly rising sea levels. Coastal areas are experiencing increased flooding and erosion, threatening homes, businesses, and infrastructure. The long-term outlook for some parts of Florida is bleak, with scientists predicting that sea levels could rise significantly in the coming decades. The looming threat of climate change and its effects on the environment and property values are driving residents to consider relocating to areas less affected by these issues. Number 3 are the high taxes, especially property taxes. While Florida is known for its lack of state income tax, residents still face high property taxes and other local taxes. Property taxes in particular have been on the rise, making home ownership more expensive. The high taxes, combined with the cost of insurance and living expenses, can be overwhelming for many residents. This financial strain is prompting some individuals and families to move to states with more favorable tax environments and lower overall costs of living. Florida was ranked as having one of the most regressive tax structures in the nation, with the bottom 20% of Florida taxpayers, as measured by income, having a state and local tax rate that is nearly 5 times that of the top 1% of households. Number 2 is limited job opportunities in certain sectors. Although Florida has a strong tourism and hospitality industry, job opportunities in other sectors can be limited. Professionals in fields such as technology, finance, and manufacturing may find fewer employment options compared to other states. The lack of diverse job opportunities can make it challenging for individuals to advance their careers or find work that aligns with their skills and interests. This economic limitation is a key reason why some residents choose to relocate to states with more robust job markets and better career prospects. And while this may not impact retirees who don't need to consider career options, this certainly affects the working-aged person considering where to move. And number 1 is the political and social climate. This one is a mixed bag. While many people are moving to Florida for its politics, there are naturally going to be people who disagree. The political and social climate in Florida has been a point of contention for many residents. The state has a diverse population with varying political views, leading to tensions and conflicts over key issues. Recent political developments and policies have further polarized communities, making it difficult for some residents to feel comfortable and represented. The desire for a more aligned and harmonious social and political environment is prompting some individuals and families to move to states that better reflect their values and beliefs. Education has been a focal point in Florida politics. While many teachers flock to the Sunshine State, many of those have rejected the political landscape. Have you ever considered moving to Florida? Or are you one of the people who have fled the Sunshine State? Tell us in the comments below where you're from and why you would or would not move to Florida.